Lobster Productions.
Bigfoot is an interesting archetype, this tale that has been told from basically every single civilization has a story about Bigfoot.
People are having telepathic communication with Bigfoot. Bigfoot seems to show up around UFO phenomenon. It also seems to be synonymous with poltergeist activity.
And then the dog man was like, dude, you're pointing a gun at us. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to rip you to pieces. And the Bigfoot is like, dude, chill. He doesn't have his finger on the trigger.
So it's the things that fascinate me the most are when you get a bunch of different people in a bunch of different areas describing the exact same thing without an obvious central point where like, oh, they're all just retelling this story.
I was inexplicably calm about a thing that I should have never been calm about. Like if I on paper saw that again, I should freak the out. But in that moment, I was oddly calm.
We can't see all the different colors. Our senses give us just enough for us to survive, and then the rest of it goes into processing power, right? So, I mean, there's a version of Bigfoot or supernatural phenomenon that could be just this. Like, only people that have some form of synesthesia maybe can see Bigfoot, because Bigfoot, and the wildest part is that the way that you would test to see if it was a changeling or not is they would literally put a baby in the oven or put a baby in the fire. And if the baby cried, then that means that the Fae folk ran up and swapped out Nana for your baby again. And now you actually got your baby back. Maybe Bigfoot is the Lamborghini version of humans. Like maybe they're so connected to Christ or Christ consciousness or whatever it is.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison and...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobster, the father of disinformation. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind everybody that this is a 30-minute preview only. Sometime around the 30-minute mark, we're going to go live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, where you can sign up for whatever tier you'd like, including a 7-day free trial, and gain access to the rest of this episode, engage in the live chat, enjoy an ad-free viewing experience, and gain access to our backlog content. There's a shit ton of content on there.
David. We tell every single time. There's no new people here. Whatever. If there was new people here, look, they asked for a daddy tier, 0 members. You asked for a mommy tier, 0 members. What the guys?
Somebody signed up for we have $100 and something tier, $151 tier. I don't know who it was, but I saw somebody signed up for. I'm like, we don't even have those tiers. What are you doing? That's an abstract amount of money. I don't understand.
Just making shit up.
Brogrove.com. Get your ticket to the Bohemian Grove. Anyway, guys, joining us today is it's still happening? Of course it's still happening. Guys, Thomas and Nate of Reality Czars are here. They're actually going to be, well, half of them are going to be over at Bohemian Grove in 9 days. Good God. Nate says he's not going to be there. I don't believe him. I think he's going to try to figure it out, but we'll see. Let's introduce the boys. Let's start with Nate. Tell everybody where we can find your work and what it is you focus on.
Hell yeah, dude. And Nate, my show is called the Reality Czars. Well, actually, I'm only half of it. Thomas over here is my other half, my better half. The other things that I do, I have a million projects that I'm working on currently right now. We're also doing Schizo News Network every Saturday. We're doing the daily noticing Monday through Friday. It gets a little wild and spicy there. So you can catch it live with us every morning, 10 a.m. Pacific. We get wild, crazy, racist, weird, bizarre. And then it goes to Patreon.
Would you say that those are safe for work shows, or
No, they are not safe for work shows. I actually have people that that comment and say dude, my earbuds died, and then it started going live while I was at work, and I had a talking to with HR and all kinds of Anyway, so don't go there unless you want to go there. So it's a lot of fun. We have a good time there. But Reality Czars is our flagship show. We get crazy, we get wild, we get fun, big, bizarre guests. We talk about anything and everything from like I used to be a really gay libertarian. So we'll talk about libertarian philosophy. Sometimes we'll talk about cryptids, Bigfoot, any type of bizarre lore, all kinds of stuff. And then Thomas is the powerhouse here. So
yeah, let's get into Thomas. Thomas, the Paranoid American. Welcome back, brother. It's good to have you. Let everybody know what it is you do and where they can find what you do.
Yeah, and aside from Reality Czars, I have to tell my mom not to listen to that one because my mom does listen to some. I'll tell her not to listen to this one either, just to be safe. I also do Paranoid American podcast. I've got one called Occult Disney. I used to work at Disney for 10 years doing animation, a whole bunch of other stuff. I left Disney and then just decided to put together a company called Paranoid American where I make comic books and games and artwork. Basically, all the stuff I was doing in the belly of the beast. Now I'm trying to do it for my own stuff. So that's all at paranoidamerican.com. Also got a new podcast series out called Under the Docks with Sean Chris from Kill the Mockingbirds, where we review documentaries. And the big headliner is a project me and Nate have been working on for the last 2 years. It's at doesbigfootexist.com. And it's a little chick track style pamphlet that's got more artwork than a traditional comic would have in it. And it just covers every Bigfoot sort of theory, all the way back to biblical, into modern day, into like homeless Bigfoot and telepathic Bigfoot and all the different versions of Bigfoot. We just decided we needed to make a definitive comic book that detailed all this. And I was surprised that it didn't already exist. So
I'm surprised you got that name.
Dude, that's what I was going to say. He got doesbigfootexist.com. That's crazy.
I'm like, this guy's definitely a fed.
Banger names out there. Conspiracycards.com. How the hell did I get that one?
That's
because you're a fed, dog. I'm looking at like, so I was trying to pull up some of your websites. I'm like NASAcomic.com, IlluminatiComic.com, Titanic Comic. I'm like, I don't know what
got them all.
I don't know what he's doing over there anymore, but
you know what
I'm kind of with
doing?
it, man.
He's doing like so even, or let's say like Sam Tripoli, right? Sam Tripoli is host of Tinfoil Hat, stand-up comedian. He's going to be at Bro Grove, one of our favorite people. But when you think
by
of
the
hustling,
way,
what's
are
up?
you gonna have a lot of this stuff? I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of stuff, but you're gonna have some of this stuff at Bohemian Grove, right? Some of this cool
Yeah,
ass
I'll
merch.
have some cool new exclusive stuff. It'll be the first time that the Illuminati comic will be on sale outside the Kickstarter that ended before last December. So that'll be the only place you can get it until maybe the week after.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
Thomas is coming and he's bringing a bunch of schizo stuff with him. So our merch section is going to be really fun because when you know, it's not just going to little George Floyd scene with like flashing cop lights and Lego blood. It'll all be there. That's so excellent. See, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, you know, when you think of working hard in this space, you think of basically like doing more shows. That's basically like, how do I work harder? I guess I start another podcast. Thomas is like, what if I made Legos? What if I made Legos? How about that? What if I started making comic books? What if I started making action figures and shit like that? Like that is really cool, thinking outside the box. And you know that's true because I don't know who else is doing it. I really mean that. Like, I don't think anybody else is doing that.
Know a Fed.
Right. There you go. We talked before the show started about what we were going to discuss today, and you guys came in hot with a bunch of Bigfoot. Bigfoot was what kept pouring out of your mouths. We're going to talk about Bigfoot today, among other things, but Nate was very excited to talk about Bigfoot. So when I see somebody excited to talk about a thing, that gets me excited. What about Bigfoot? What are we talking about here?
dude, that's a loaded question because we have to even go back to what the hell is Bigfoot.
Right.
Bigfoot is an interesting like archetype, this tale that has been told from basically every single civilization has a story about Bigfoot. And not all of them will say that he is a flesh and blood creature. And not all of them will say that he's like a spirit, like a kind of like a protector spirit. Some people will say that he's aggressive. Some people say that he's timid and shy. It's a weird thing, dude. So I even talked to some hippies. We've had a lot of really interesting guests on the show that have had like, I guess like psychic communications with Bigfoot. Like I'm not even entirely certain that you can like touch him, hold him, but I have had some guests on that have had sexual experience with Bigfoot as well. So maybe you can. So we will, we're going to kind of cover the gamut here, and we're going to kind of go over a lot of different theory. We're going to talk about, like, is he a flesh and blood creature? If he is, what is he? Is he a spiritual entity? If so, where did he come from? We're going to kind of cover everything here today. So we're going to have some fun.
I'm going to throw one out there.
Question?
Can I throw one out that you guys, I hope you know about this because I might add to your book. Do you guys know about like his connections to the Basque people and Olenta Zero and Christmas and all that shit?
Go on.
There's so much, dude.
You're gonna have to pay me now, dog. No, now we'll wait. Now we will. Yeah, Chris. So all right, I'll break it down as best as I can.
You show me yours, we'll show you ours. We got
there we go.
Okay, it's like show and tell. Okay, that's fine. I'll show you my Bigfoot. You show me your Bigfoot. What's his name? Brian from Demon Erasers came on to ruin Christmas. Where he comes on every so often and ruin something, and he was telling us a story about the people of Basque, and that's like a region in France, and it's kind of like. I think that they're constantly at war, but there was a big war with the French, and it was thwarted by the invaders were thwarted by giant stones being thrown at these people, and they couldn't really figure out why. So the Basque people retain their land, and they also have like weird genotypes, weird blood with these people. And
I have Basque DNA, which explains a lot.
Yeah. I mean, is it Rh negative or is it just? I
have no idea. I don't know what it is. I just know that it's I forget exactly what the thing with Basque is, but yeah, I don't know if it's a bloodline thing. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Like
so
Basque Saga, is that where that came from?
Basque Saga, yeah. There's an unquenchable thirst for cum for the people of Basque.
What's worse, like sucking your cousin's, sucking your own? It's whatever. Leave it to the chat.
Sucking your cousin's is significantly worse, I believe.
Yeah, one of those is a skill. The other one is just like a vice.
Oh, yeah. Actually, what's funny is I saw somebody say recently in one of those green text things where it's like, I recently discovered I was able to suck my own. Long story short, it's nothing like getting your sucked. It's everything like sucking a dick.
All the down, no upside. Yeah, I don't like that. Anyway,
if anybody was wondering, there you go.
Olenta Zero is like he's the Christmas tradition of the Basque in the Basque tradition, and if you look at this character, he's kind of looks like Saint Nick, but sometimes he's depicted as like this hairy creature. It's like the idea is to leave out a gift for him.
Yeah.
So or that he leaves out a gift for you so that you don't kill him.
Basically, yeah, because what happened is all these giants that was what turned out to be throwing the stones. There was a star that appeared in the sky that heralded the birth of the Messiah, and that star, they knew that it was the fulfillment of prophecy. They knew what it meant, and so they were Nephilim, right? So they cast themselves off the cliff sides. The only one who didn't was Olenta Zero, or whatever the hell it is, and he would basically bring gifts to the locals in appeasement to like, hey, don't kill me. I'm just a cool big guy, Don't send the Messiah my way.
I'm the good one.
Yeah, I'm a good one, exactly. So basically, it's somehow connected to Santa Claus. Or I mean, you could see the overlap there, right? He's a giant. He's got a sack full of goodies. He's dropping them down your chimney so that you don't kill him.
Yeah, this is like, see how he's like very hairy, and he draws a correlation from the people or the things that shared this land in Basque, in the Basque territory that helped them defend from invaders and stuff like that. So people relate that to Bigfoot. Obviously, it has some biblical connotation, but there you go, right? You rewrite your book, Thomas.
Well, maybe we just added another page with a little special thank you.
Very
definitely cool. Talk to Brian of Demon Erasers because he will break this story down in a much better way for you, and you'll get a much clearer story.
If you do write it,
perfect.
If you write it, attribute it to us. Don't attribute it to him. That's all I ask.
We're gonna give it to Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin's contribution to this comic.
Almost 100%. He's got Rh negative blood. That's just my 2 cents about Owen Benjamin. So, all right. So let's get into it then. I wanted to ask you before you do though. You said you know people or have had people on who have had with Bigfoot. Are all of these people white women?
No, and we do have theories about that too. But as far as this one particular gentleman was telling me that it was not consensual, and it was rough. Bigfoot, yeah. I had such a hard time keeping a straight face and not laughing as he's describing
was it
this
a
horrific ordeal that happened to him. What's that?
A female Bigfoot?
Genuine?
No, it was a male Bigfoot. He was. This definitely wasn't like a prison fantasy of his or anything like that. But he's described this big black hairy Bigfoot that came and raped him.
Now, does that make it more credible or less? That it sounds like not something you would brag about or even have a pleasant time remembering. It almost seems like it adds credibility for that.
Yeah, definitely.
It
Because
does,
who's
dude.
lying?
Well, speaking of the Basque people, we've actually had a couple on, and they were talking. They have Basque DNA, and they say that them and their family have been. I think he is Rh negative, not Rh null. That's really rare. But he has these aliens that come. He calls them aliens, but he also kind of attributes them to being fairies.
Okay.
And Squatch, yeah. Anyways, he from time to time he gets milked by these entities. Because they are after his.
Yeah, as
Have
they
you,
often
I
are.
guess.
That's the worst humble brag ever. Like my so good.
Have you guys spoken to Nate Gillis? He does something called what is it called? Necronology?
Oh yeah, that was and he talks a lot about basically necromancers and how they apply to this whole bigger picture. Nathaniel Gillis.
Nathaniel Gillis. Yeah, so there's a lot of stealing of. There's a lot of like taking cadavers and doing like they'll steal this from a cadaver and then put it inside of something in order to like transfer a spirit. It's crazy shit, dude.
Right. Well,
Yeah, basically.
It sounds like
ancient
some
Greece,
Juan
I mean,
Ayala shit.
that was
Yeah.
like an actual profession. Like you could have a career in the guy that makes sure that other people don't steal little chunks of dead bodies in the graveyard because of how popular necromancy was.
I just wouldn't imagine that you could jerk off a corpse.
Well,
you know
here's
what I
the
mean?
thing, dude. It gets rigid and it can still come. I know for a fact because we do
know for a
on
fact.
Schizo News Network. And actually, this might have been the daily noticing. So we do Thirsty Thursdays where we talk mostly white women that are having sex with animals, all kinds of terrible things. So misbehaving women are Thirsty Thursdays. So that's actually tomorrow if anyone wants to catch that.
And
We have a lot of bestiality to get to. But there was a woman that got pregnant by a corpse. And so it's on. It's somewhere in the archive. If you want to go find it on the Patreon,
How are
pay me
you,
some money and you can find it.
Real question here. So you're just like I'm sorry. Is the content like, do you have to continue to find it, or is it hard to find, or is this just something that there's so much content you're like, let's do an entire show?
Dude, I was looking for Thirsty Thursday, I think a couple nights ago. I found 5 bestiality articles within like 10 minutes. White women love to have sex with their dogs. It's a problem.
Dude,
it's always
I got it.
white women.
Did you see me get in trouble with the Groypers a while ago? Like this is, dude, they flooded my account with 10,000 fake followers and then took it out. They knew that it would like tank my algorithm because they were like, you're a brown. I said, I was like, maybe Hitler's not so good. And they were like, you brown, blah, blah, all this shit. And I go, your sister's having with the family dog. And they lost it because I was like, what's true about you?
It
like,
hit
I'm
a
not
nerve, didn't it?
Yeah. It's like, what did I say about white people? White people they're pretty cool. Like white people got their shit together. But I was like, you fuck dogs. And they were all like collectively lost their mind. It was a bad week on Twitter for me. Very bad.
Yeah. You know what's funny though is I thought you were going to say, Nate, that people just send it to you because I do timeline cleanse and somebody asked me the other day. Yeah, they go,
sick
is this show
bastards.
about...
It's the same people. Nancy sends me the same horrific shit. Yeah.
There you go. And that's what I got the question.
Shout out.
Somebody
We
was
love
in
you,
the chat.
Nancy.
Shout out, Nancy. They go, is this show about murder? And I was like, not really. It's just become that because it's what you guys send me. I just say, hey, send me content. We'll play it on the show. It's that simple. And they're like, how about people dying? How about that? And I go, so yeah, I guess that's what the show is now. So I'm sure that you're not really struggling for content of people having with animals. They just send it to you. Yeah, shout out, Nancy.
I mean, bro, Faces of Death is still a classic, even though it was mostly staged. But it's evergreen content.
Yeah. There's something about staring into the abyss, I guess. So when it comes to Bigfoot, you guys were saying, that is it a tangible entity? Can you actually touch it? And there's all these theories that used to be the idea of like a missing link. It was something between us and our ape ancestors that we allegedly evolved from, and there was a jump in the size of the brain and also just a jump in physical human development that we can't account for. It's not in the fossil record and that doesn't exist. And so people used to think, well, maybe Bigfoot is that missing link, and that's why you get that terminology associated with Bigfoot. And then if you look at the Joe Rogan show, it was very popular a few years back where he's talking about Gigantopithecus, which is allegedly this massive bipedal ape that seemingly used to exist and is identifiable in the fossil record. But it's changed a lot. We had Doc Brown of the Promethean Lens podcast or Prometheus Lens podcast. He comes on, he talks about biblical Bigfoot and how it seems that the character Esau from the Bible was maybe a Bigfoot. That
We're
Doc
definitely
Brown.
going to talk about that. Yeah.
Doc
Yeah,
will
and
be
if you
at
read
Bohemian
it,
Grove. Come
yeah,
say
he's
hi.
also going to be at Bohemian Grove. That's right. So if you read it through that lens, I can see what he's talking about. But if you listen to modern day stories, we're getting into telepathic Bigfoot, which is very strange. People are having telepathic communication with Bigfoot. Bigfoot seems to show up around UFO phenomenon. It also seems to be synonymous with poltergeist activity. There's a lot of strange supernatural shit going on with Bigfoot. Where do you fall these days, I guess, is the question on what the nature of Bigfoot is?
Depends on the day, man. Depends on the day. It's one of those interesting things, dude. One of the first people that I ever had come on and talk about this, his name is Scott Pace. Really interesting, nice guy. He was telling me about the first telepathic communication he ever had when he saw a Bigfoot. So he said as soon as you made eye contact with it, it could completely communicate with you. He was in a hunting blind and he was staring down at he was staring down at what he thought was a big animal. And he puts a scope on it and he looks at it and he's like, holy shit, this thing has like a flat, greasy face. It's hairy. It stood up and he was like, holy shit, this thing's like 8 feet tall. This thing is a Bigfoot. And then right 10 feet left of it is this giant other creature, this like a dog man. He said it had the face of a dog, this huge, enormous body, extremely muscular. And he was getting like nice vibes, like peaceful, loving vibes from the Bigfoot. And then the dog man was like, dude, you're pointing a gun at us. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to rip you to pieces. Like he put that shit down immediately.
He put it in his head though. He said, okay.
So he's probably, I don't know, 100 to 200 feet away from these people, or yards, whatever it is. Like he's sitting there with like a scope up in a hunting blind. So he can't speak to these people, but they're speaking to him. They are directly talking to him in his mind. And he has this communication with him. And the Bigfoot is like, dude, chill. He doesn't have his finger on the trigger. He's just looking at us through the scope. He doesn't even really know what's going on. He's scared right now. And the dog man's like, dude, I'm going to kill you. And so they had this like back and forth, and the Bigfoot made the dog man like stand down and chill the out. And he just describes like climbing down and like getting on his four-wheeler and getting the out of there and being surrounded and them kind of chasing him and hearing them like escorting him out of the forest. And after that, he said they would come to his neighborhood. They would come to his home. They would like start telepathically communicating with him. And it was almost like it opened up a weird gateway. He says the second they made eye contact it opened a door. Yes, Dogman, don't take any shit. And
it's like when you give a $5 to the homeless guy and now he won't leave you alone.
The worst. That's like being
the
in
hitchhiker
city.
effect, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I would call that like homeless people selling you fruit snacks, and if you give them money and they keep bothering you, yeah, you could call that the hitchhiker effect, I guess. That is something that has, entered the sphere of awareness when it comes to all the lore surrounding Bigfoot, is this idea that him and Dogman are like tangentially, I'm just making up words. They're connected in some way, shape, or form. And it seems like, these stories go that way. Bigfoot is the higher intellect, and he's kind of the ringleader, and that Dogman is almost an attack dog. And that's not the only time I've heard that. I've heard that from several different stories, several different people, and it's really strange. I don't know what to make of it, but that theme of telepathy is very consistent in all of this.
It's also a fairly new development, but it's also incredibly common now. Like if you go back and read historical records of Bigfoot, which go back, I mean, thousands of years, depending on your definition of what a Bigfoot is, but easily Teddy Roosevelt, I believe, wrote about meeting, wildsmen and their reports of Bigfoot. And it's around, I guess, like the mid 1900s that the telepathy starts making a connection. And it's the exact same time that now all of a sudden Bigfoot's being seen alongside orbs, or there's like a UFO / Bigfoot connection. And this wasn't just something that got popularized through TV or movies. There were actually entire sections of the country that all of these sightings spiked at the same time, independent of any sort of pop culture media that was influencing this. So it's the things that fascinate me the most are when you get a bunch of different people in a bunch of different areas describing the exact same thing without an obvious central point where like, oh, they're all just retelling this story, or they all just saw Harry and the Hendersons or something.
Right.
A lot of this is pre Harry and the Hendersons, right? A lot of it is pre any of it getting its way out, to the point where people that were telling these stories were still being mocked and ridiculed. And one of the things that really put me over, because I'm the biggest skeptic in the realm sometimes when we get on some of these shows. But man, I was talking to my good friend Gary Lewis, who has been a hunter for his entire life. He's been publishing hunting books since the 90s on Amazon, like before Amazon was anything. And he told me that when he was younger and one of his best friends, they went out hunting, and almost exactly like Nate described, they run into this huge thing that they're not sure. They're not thinking, oh, this is clearly Bigfoot, because Bigfoot doesn't exist at this point. There's a telepathic connection where it's telling them like, get out of here. And he said that him and his friend, part ways like guys do, see each other like 30 years later and everything's like, hey, what's going on? Like, I mean, they just like lives separated. He runs into his friend 30 years later. And the first thing that came up was like, hey man, we really saw that thing that day, right? Like for 30 years it's been brewing. And he was like, at that moment, he was like, thank God, like I thought I was also going crazy, or that just something weird happened with my memory. And this is not a unique one-off. Like they're all anecdotal, but the fact that there's so many actual hunters and like outdoorsmen, way more than I am, or maybe even Nate is, like these guys that come up with these identical stories over and over. And the fact that they don't even want to tell the story. They feel like there's almost like a shame in admitting that they saw something supernatural, but it's undisputable that they went through some sort of experience.
I've had a very similar experience where I saw something, and the guy that I saw it with, if I do bump into him on the rare occasion I do reach out to him or we end up talking, it's what we talk about. And I basically reach out to him for confirmation. I'm like, we saw something, right? And I think when we used to talk about it, he would say he saw something. And then I noticed we crossed a certain line in our age where now if I reach out and talk to him, he'll go, I don't know what I saw. I don't know what, and he doesn't want to talk about it. And I'm like, that's weird.
It's like the movie Hook, when Peter Pan starts like growing up and turning into Robin Williams, and he's like, he doesn't remember Tinkerbell anymore.
It's almost like he's got a defense mechanism up. But I think he and I saw a gray alien, a really small one. And at the time we were so young, I thought it was a naked black kid. I thought it was a naked black kid in the woods. And then as I got older, probably
drop my bike.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did, is I grabbed my bike and I said, "Get out of here, black kid!" And then I noticed it was strange he had no interest in my bike. But as we got older, maybe like 15, 16, I started to like intellectualize it, and I'm like, there's no way a naked black toddler would move that fast. We were in tall grass. He would never be able to run that fast through tall grass. I can't run that fast through tall grass now. How did that happen? Why wasn't this kid interested in being rescued? We were in the woods. We were, kids too. He should have turned to us and been like, hey, I'm naked and I don't know where my mom is. Like any number, you intellectualizing, it makes no sense. And I remember talking to him and saying, well, he goes, I don't know what we saw. And I go, well, it was bipedal, right? And he goes, yeah, I know it was on 2 feet. And I'm like, so that rules out like dog, raccoon, monkey. We're in New Jersey. It's not a monkey. And then the further you get down to like process of elimination, the more he would shut down and he wouldn't want to talk about it. It's very strange in that way. But
there's not a lot of practical use for that sort of experience. If it does anything, it's going to alienate you from the rest of the world. So a lot of the time, it does end up just becoming a weird little memory. And if these things are real, and it's a huge if, right? If it is real, they are rare enough that you could see it and never see it again for the rest of your life and never meet anyone that saw it again. And sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, then it seems like it's not even possible. But then just look at ball lightning. Like ball lightning is a like a cohesively and well proven not supernatural, but like an anomaly in nature. But it is so rare that for the longest time, for hundreds of years, people reporting ball lightning, it was the exact same thing. You might have well said you saw Bigfoot or a ghost or an angel or a demon. But now that there's actual record of ball lightning, even though we have no idea what causes it, how to produce it, how to monitor it, any of that. But just because ball lightning exists means that you kind of have to be open-minded about everything else. Great little naked, gray alien black kids or Bigfoot or whatever it is.
My aunt, It's I mean it's documented. I have the newspaper clipping as well. In the 80s, like late 80s, in Brooklyn, they saw like a mothership on Cropsey Avenue, and they saw it. Everybody in Brooklyn saw it. This thing zipped around all like it went from there to the to the bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, and it went over to Queens. It was just in New York, just and everyone reported seeing it that night. And like, you know, even to the next morning, the radio was like, "Hey, New York, did you guys see that shit in the sky like this?" So but I asked her about it, and I said, "So you saw it?" And she said, "Yeah, it was like a shiny army tank, and it had like things going around it, and there was lights, and it was right in front of her apartment where she could walk out onto her balcony and see it. And it's like a 2-lane street and then another 2-lane street, so it's like it's big, but she's like it was right there." And then I said, "Well, what happened?" She goes, "It just gone, like just like that." And I said, "Oh wow, crazy! What did you do?" And she's like, "Watch Jeopardy."
Yeah, made a sandwich.
Yeah, I was like, "What do you mean you watched Jeopardy?" And she was like, "Yeah, like I just went back into the room and just watched Jeopardy." And I was like, "So that's it?" And I was like, "Did you talk with my uncle about it?" And she's like, "No, not really." Like it's like that happened, and then the next day they were just like, "Oh yeah," and then she's like, "Oh, the newspaper, yeah," and she clipped it because she knew it was important. But I was like, "But that happened right there," and you were just kind of like, "Okay." Well, it's a weird phenomenon, but so many people, right? So many people that happens to, like some crazy shit, and they're just like, "Wow." Anyway,
that's it. And then you're left to decide, is that a psychological defense mechanism? Because like Thomas said, it's not really applicable information. It's not useful. You can't really do anything with it. And so the brain just discards it. Or is there something else? There's an additional layer where sometimes people will have these experiences and they will say, "I was inexplicably calm about a thing that I should have never been calm about. Like if I on paper saw that again, I should freak the fuck out. But in that moment, I was oddly calm." So there seems to be two things going on: either a psychological defense mechanism where it's pointless and your body defends yourself from it, and it doesn't apply in real life anyway, and also maybe there is some sort of a different effect that's taking place. Maybe it's caused by it.
Maybe it's like they like we always knew, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know. And then here it is, and you go, yeah. And then it's over. And and after it's over, then that's only when they realize how bizarre it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to relate, but it's possibly that. Who knows, man? It's crazy.
Well, I think there is definitely a self-defense mechanism here, because there's a reason why we can't smell or hear as good as every other animal. We can't see all the different colors. Our senses give us just enough for us to survive, and then the rest of it goes into processing power, right? We don't send a lot into like all the auxiliary devices, and that's just one of those extra things that we don't. We've kind of, I guess, evolved, like the wrong word, but beyond acknowledging supernatural phenomenon because of that. Like it doesn't help you pay rent. It doesn't help you hunt food to give to your family. If anything, it prevents you from doing those things. So it almost feels like beyond just an individual thing that we've evolved to. It's, you realize at that moment, this could totally change my life. I might as well just pretend that was a naked black kid in the woods and not an alien.
Well, you know what happens? You become
the article
podcaster.
Yeah, I guess so. But see, New York Post in 1978. But yeah, it's just like, was it a bird? Was it? And everybody saw it, and then everyone was like, whatever. Okay.
You're not supposed to be able to see what your cat sees, like staring at the wall. Like we're not supposed to see that. It's a self-protection mechanism, I think. Because holy shit, dude! If you could see all the things,
well, you do get that, right? Some people do end up seeing that. Like for example, the nonverbal kids of the telepathy tapes, they'll often be described as even I have a relative who has an autistic kid, and she'll say that sometimes she'll walk in the room and he'll have been, locked onto something, looking at something, smiling, talking, engaging with something. So it seems like, you can. And what's fascinating about that is that those kids, they're typed into some psychic phenomenon, right? Because they have restrictions on their other senses. And so they're retreating into something that, only pseudoscience says exists. There's a lot of, scientific study around psychic phenomenon, but it's one of those situations where if you dead one sense, the other ones become heightened. I think these kids have their senses dulled, And so they're leaning into a totally different one, and they
Like
are
Daredevil.
engaging with this.
This is how Daredevil
just like
works.
Daredevil.
Yeah,
exactly.
they're Daredevil, and I don't know if it's something that they are like tapping into that's like something like a new evolution, or if it's actually a regression. Because I kind of feel like the humans also used to be more psychic.
Yes.
Well, there's another theory too. It's kind of related to synesthesia a little bit. If you ever heard of synesthesia,
Yes.
it's people that they can see smells, or they can smell colors, or they can hear visuals, or they can see sounds. I know a guy
I have
that
a form of it. I have a form of
Really?
synesthesia. Yeah, but it's light. It's like it would be what perfect pitch is to relative pitch. Perfect pitch meaning you can pick out every note that's played. Relative pitch would mean I can get you in the ballpark depending on like the arrangement. But for key signatures for songs, when I used to play in a band, I could if it's the key of E, let me see if I remember correctly, the key of E, that's two sharps. And like altogether it would sound orange. The key of G would sound green to me. The key of D minor, or that's F major, that would be like a light blue. And I would be able to identify, like, I probably still could if I concentrated, but like I could hear a song and be like, this arrangement of notes sounds blue. I have a feeling that there's one flat in it, meaning it's this one. You know what I mean? This key.
100. That's actually the best example, because one of my friends back when I was doing music full time too, he had that same uncanny ability where he didn't have to listen. He could just see what color he was seeing and would know if it was on. No, it sounds almost identical to what you're just describing. And this is an example of not necessarily a heightened sense. This is where your senses are kind of overlapping, they're crossing. And it also happens under high amounts of stress or psychedelics. Basically, like the neuroplasticity is so high that you can have different neurotransmitters that are saturated your entire system, so that now it goes beyond just the receptors that they usually get absorbed by. And this allows you to be able to, like you said, like see sounds or hear colors or all this. So I mean, there's a version of Bigfoot or supernatural phenomenon that could be just this. Like, only people that have some form of synesthesia maybe can see Bigfoot, because Bigfoot could be a frequency and not like a visual light spectrum thing.
That's fascinating. Okay, wait a second. Before we go any further, we're giving away way too much gravy. These people didn't pay us, and so they don't deserve any more gravy. Look, if you want to continue watching this, go to the Reality Czars on Rumble, and you can continue enjoying this stream, or you can go to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, sign up for whatever tier you'd like, keep engaging in the live chat, keep engaging with this episode, and also enjoy an ad-free viewing experience. You could do that all now. And otherwise, we're kicking the pores out. It's over.
That's
we're done.
right.
We're done. We're giving away
rated
too much gravy.
We're rating your stream right now. Get over there. Get over there.
Oh yeah, that's right. If you're in Rumble, you could see that we just rated the stream. So go and jump in there and head on over to Reality Czars. All right.
Or pay us.
And subscribe.
Fucking
Don't be a
cheap bastards.
faggot about it.
And join the mother tier, right? The mommy tier. That's where you get nipple vision.
It's only $1,500, mommy tier.
Yeah.
We'll call you mommy. Yeah, that's the deal.
But we won't drink any of your milk. I'm really drawing a line.
You know, the other
No
night I was streaming with Jules, and he got real drunk, and somebody gave him $50, and he took his shirt off and put stickers on his nipples. So we are whores. If you want to rumble rate us enough, I will put some stickers.
Was a gay
on
man.
So, yeah,
I knew he was.
Oh, Jules will be there. Bohemian
Oh yeah,
Grove.
that's right. Jules gonna
Come
be
see
there.
him.
Yeah, I was texting him earlier. That guy fucks. Okay,
maybe you could fuck him.
maybe you could pay him, give him a couple of drinks. Maybe he'll show
Depends
you
on the super chat.
his nipples. Yeah, that's it. Just cost the super chat. That's it. All right. So yeah, I mean, there is this never ending. It's crazy the way it's evolved, right? Because people that are talking about Bigfoot 10 years ago, number one, they were ostracizing people that were like, I don't know, there seems to be a connection with UFOs, aliens, and Bigfoot. I'm just saying. And they go, no, you. This a monkey, right? This just a big monkey if it exists at all.
Oh, hey, let me cut in because we should talk with Sam about this. We're gonna have Sam as our guest for NDS at Bohemian Grove, but at his comedy club that he co-owns or owns, I'm not sure.
Oh, this is fascinating. Yeah.
The guy that runs it, I think he's also a co-owner. He was seeing those drones in the sky and he was freaking out about it. And now he said the drones have stopped and all that shit's gone, but he's seeing cryptids around. And that's as much information that I've gotten from Sam of what he said. So I'm going to try to pick his brain about that. But he's seeing, first you saw drones, which were some drones and were orbs and were some like wheels of Ezekiel. So they have crazy shit in the sky at that point. And now there's cryptid activity. And I'm just like, yep, check. That was something weird. So
Yeah.
100%, dude. There's a connection with that shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, I go back to that story. I think it came out of the Bump podcast, was it? Lady that was in contact allegedly with a Bigfoot for a prolonged amount of time. It was speaking with her telepathically, and eventually it revealed to her. Now this woman is white, so take that with a grain of salt. That it was what was the term? It was something seeking redemption, something with an E. There was a particular word.
It wasn't Elohim, was it? Or
it wasn't Elohim, but it was like there was one or two obscure mentions of this terminology in the Bible, and it was basically an offshoot of the Nephilim. So one of those bloodlines that deviates one way or another from the fallen angel bloodline, right? It was not an Ennead. It might have been an Ennead, but that doesn't sound right when I say it out loud. But there's a lot of people that are connecting these things to that ancient bloodline, right? That corrupted bloodline, that bloodline of mankind mixed with something else, something spiritual, something that you might call an Elohim. So where do you guys fall on that these days?
Dude, I think that there's entirely connections there, specifically too. So, I mean, we could go. I mean, it sounds like you've already kind of gone over the story that you saw.
I'm sorry, real quick.
It's called an Eliud. That's right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Eliud actually was Scott Pace said that was the name that they told him to call him. Or sorry, other way around. Yes, they said Eliud was the term that he used. That is fascinating, dude. That's kind of weird that is. Yeah,
well, that's like
wait. So we have a second instance of somebody.
Yeah.
Is this the guy that got butt fucked by it?
No, as far as I know, Scott Pace did not get butt. This gentleman saw the dog man and said if that did happen, he kept it to himself like a real man. You bury that
like a real
down.
man. Yeah.
Eliud would be so it's a classification of Nephilim, but it gets its derivation. The first letters El. That's from Elohim. So you'll see 11, but they're calling her El, and that's to designate some sort of higher entity. And so that's kind of where you're getting this from. Interesting.
There's another, I guess, biblical claim too. 1835, there was a Mormon preacher, LDS guy named David W. Patton, and he encountered this tall, hairy, red-haired, stinky creature on the side of the road, and he was able to converse in conversation with it. And throughout the course of them talking, this entity, this Bigfoot figure, claimed to have been a descendant or the biblical Cain itself, and that this was part of the curse of Cain, was that he had to roam around the earth stinky and hairy and tall and kind of keep him out of everyone's way. So and again, this is pre 1970s or 1980s, before Bigfoot was some sort of a fun thing to talk about. This is there was no real advantage in making any of these notes early on.
Paul Stobbs of Understanding Conspiracy, great guy, great content creator, excellent researcher. He was the guy who coined that theory, the Nephilim look like clowns. But if you talk to him, he'll give you the entire through line of how this visage of the clown is resemblance of the Nephilim, and it traced all the way back to Cain and this mark that God put on Cain to basically protect him when he casted him out. And Cain goes, but they're going to f me up. And he goes, no, you got this mark on you. People will see the mark. They're definitely not going to f you up. And he said that mark was like paper white skin or something to that effect. And so you could see how that applies to the clown situation. Then he goes on to describe a lot more aspects of it. Basically like the crazy hair and everything, the orange hair or the red hair. And in his research, one of the real integral parts of it was this hairy man, this wild man, and how that fit into the whole narrative. And I forget what Paul said, but I remember following it and going, oh shit, yeah, that seems like Bigfoot. He was saying there's something about Bigfoot and how it keys into this. That's really fascinating, man.
The red and the orange hair specifically is one of the weirdest things that comes up across timelines and cultures and countries. Different cultures that haven't even interacted with each other have stories going back about this orange or red hair and a scent, a very specific scent. The scent, I mean, yeah, maybe any animal out there that's 8 feet tall is going to stink a little bit, but
I'm writing the scent down right now. I was going to bring that up to you because that smell isn't just Bigfoot. It's so it's rotting, it's stinky, it's sulfuric, right? Even in the Bible, when you talk about Esau and how he was his brother was trying to deceive their father into believing that Jacob was Esau, and one of the things that he did was he covered himself not only in wool so that his blind father would feel his arm and think that it was Esau, but he also said that Esau smelled of the field, which is an interesting way to describe how he smelled. But for the Bible to even mention it, it's like, okay, this guy's got a smell. This is worth noting. And that smell also tricked their father into believing it. There we go. That guy.
Yeah, he smelled like shit, dog. You have no idea.
He smelled like shit. And so, but that smell isn't just a Bigfoot thing. It's also like an alien thing, right? It's a putrid sulfuric smell. My schizophrenic aunt, who in hindsight, I don't think she was schizophrenic. I think she was terribly oppressed by demonic entities, and she would say that there was one demon in particular. She said it was the devil. It wasn't like she was a real spiritual learned woman. She didn't have a bunch of references as far as information and such, but she said that it would present itself to her sometimes, but it would be preceded by a smell, a specific smell. And she said that it was like sulfur, eggs, like rotting. It smelled horrible. And then she knew that it would be him, and so she would turn around, and lo and behold, there in her words was the devil. And then of course you would find that smell popping up in any kind of research you do. Demonic encounters, sleep paralysis, aliens coming in and abducting you, and it's something they consistently say is the smell. And then of course Bigfoot also carries this really disgusting smell, and that's interesting. I don't know, one of the things that I heard that might, so Karen Wilkinson, she's a UFO abductee victim, lifelong, and she's been impregnated by these abductors. And
we need to have her on. I mean,
I reached out to her. She reached out to me, and she hasn't responded. It just happened like a week ago. Maybe she'll check the email soon. But what she was saying is that she's been pregnant, and then she's lost the babies, and the doctors have said, I know you were pregnant, but right now it appears as though you never were, right? So they have records of her showing all the signs, and everything biologically speaking says you're pregnant, and then all of a sudden it's like she never was. Later on in life, she would see black-eyed children that she felt were like her own children. They were weird, retarded. They spoke to her telepathically. They seemed really off. But one of the things she said one time was about alien grays, and how she remembers being on a ship and seeing them discarded and laying in a pile, like meat suits that were just like, when they're not being used, they're just tossed in a pile. And she described the smell being like sulfuric, like rotting eggs, disgusting, and rotting biological material. So I don't know if it's just those grays are some sort of biomechanical suit and they don't know how to clean them, or if there's something about this realm that smells like sulfur, and that's where these things.
There's something about just the scent in general, like our olfactory sense. People say like it's the closest tied to memory. Well, that's because your sense of smell bypasses the thalamus, which is where all your other senses go through to get kind of reinterpreted by logic and recall. Well, your olfactory sense, your smell, it bypasses that entirely. So it's tied directly to emotions and memories, which makes it really unique, because unlike any other type of memory you can have, try to think of a sound you heard, or a feeling you felt, or like a thought you had, or a vision that you had. It all kind of gets murky. But when you smell something, even if it's been 30 years since you smelled like a specific type of perfume, or like the weird way that like a Halloween mask smelled in the 80s, like these very specific things, when you smell one of those, you are locked in, like 100% certain you know what that smell is and where it came from. And and there's no such thing as any other sense that most normal people have that can tie directly to like a certainty along with recollection. And I think that's part of like this scent being like a signifier.
There's a certain perfume that takes me back to the first time I ever got a hand job inside the movie theater from this.
I was gonna say that
it's a very specific memory.
This is gonna get me in trouble, but like some girl was wearing that. It's Burberry something or other, I don't remember, but walked by her with my wife, smelled it, reminded me of like my first girlfriend, and I felt like I cheated on my wife. And I'm like, I'm at the mall. But like, that's how powerful it was.
Because it bypassed all of your normal filters, where it's like, whoa, don't think that, don't go down that angle. It just brings you right there, because you don't actually have a say in middlemaning that. Which again, it's so wild. Like the smell factor, And the reason how Bigfoot has this very unique smell, I would assume, because I haven't smelled or seen Bigfoot before, but you smell it once and you know what it is. Like, you could then become a legit Bigfoot hunter just by smelling it.
Yeah,
Yep.
people will also say that about Dogman. That Dogman has that very similar smell. I actually realized that recently with Pokemon cards. I went on this kick and I was collecting the original 151 Pokemon cards, and the visual of the card mixed with the smell of the card would unlock micro memories. For like I would for a brief moment, and then it fades over time. If you keep sniffing them, it doesn't happen anymore. But if you smell them and you look at them, it would flash me back to like very specific moments of my childhood where I was looking at that card like instantly. Instantly,
Like
it would be very
I remember that smell, dude.
Yes, I remember that. So there is something. I remember seeing that once in a commercial where it's like, "Did you know smell is the number one sense attached to memory?" And I've never forgotten that. I think that that's 100% true. And I wonder what it is that it taps into, some sort of gnosis. Like, I think there is genetic memory, whatever you want to call it, a spiritual level, that we know what these things are. And I think that's what's happening
start
right
beating
now.
my kids and start to cook a hamburger, something like
Oh,
that, just
yeah.
to f them up for life. Like, anytime they walk past a Burger King, they're like just flinching.
That's that artificial.
That sounds like some MK
cardboard.
Ultra shit, actually, dude. That's
Yes.
not far off from from some of the stuff they would do.
Yeah. And speaking of that reminded me of Stranger Things. I'm pretty sure that they said that other realm that that 11
Upside
would be able-
down.
yeah, smelled like ass, basically. Like there was a smell associated with it. That's something that you see really consistently in all sorts of supernatural encounters. And so I'm wondering if it is a Bigfoot smell or if it's that realm smell. You know
Well,
what I
there's
mean?
like
Where
Yeah,
it's
getting
like,
into like some Jonathan Keel type of theories here, just all of them being connected and it being one giant phenomenon, and just that your brain can interpret it in that way, right? So if you are a Christian man, you might see a demon, you might see an angel, you might have seen Mother Mary, right, come down and speak to you. And if you are more of a homo atheist, you might see a UFO, an alien, and a little black gray man running around in the forest, something like that. Or you might see Bigfoot if you're a big
Right.
nerd. You might run into one of these things, and you might also not even be able to see it, but you might be able to, like we were talking about, the smell or hear it. Like, I have some stuff pulled up here. And big shout out to Chaz of the Dead.
oh yeah,
He was the first one to bring us up on this one, was like all the different connections between like UFOs, Bigfoot, and poltergeist. All of them, like the knocking, the wood knocking, right? So like a lot of the poltergeist experiences start with like a sulfuric smell, or they start with like knocks on your walls like this. So, and then it's a type of form of like communication that these spirits want to have with you. Also, again, yes, the smells, the electrical interference, the feeling of being watched. Bigfoot also has the wood knocks where he's trying to speak to you, where he's hitting the trees. It has that connection with the wood. It has that connection with, of course, the telepathic communication, vanishing like entities, so he can like come and go. He's also associated with lights and smells, and then the UFOs are the same thing. That missing time, the light, the telepathic communication. They do knocking, weird sounds. There's some weird connection there. I think that this phenomenon is basically what I call it at this point, is all of the same thing. It's a trickster entity that's with you.
That's very interesting because Nathaniel Gillis, who we were telling you about earlier, he calls it the phenomenon, and he does highlight how it seems to be the same thing taking different forms. And what's interesting is whether it's Bigfoot or aliens, throughout history, you get different versions for different time periods, right? Like a little green guy or a little dude in a silver suit, right? That was like really popular in like the 50s or 60s. You would see a lot of that, like in firsthand testimony. It was these little dudes with these silver suits on. Even the UFOs themselves would take consistent forms over different generations. You know, you would have like the silver bell-shaped UFO all the way up to modern day, where it's just it's a complete amalgamation. And I think what's really winning out is like plasmoids, right? Like these plasma-based UFOs. But one of the things that's really interesting, we learned recently. So I was wondering about the nature of like astral projection or remote viewing. and if it was inherently a negative thing to engage in, or if it was a natural function of the human body and it's something that we've been detached from, should you explore it, or is it inherently bad? And I was kind of praying on that. And I basically was asking God, like, look, if this is something, because I think I have like a knack for it, but I've never done it all the way, but I can get to a certain point and then there's like a blocker and I've never gotten past it. And it's something that's fascinating to me. I don't know. So I'm praying on it, and I'm like, if this is something I shouldn't do, send me a sign that I shouldn't do it. If this is something that I can engage in, let me know how to do it. All of a sudden, I'm struck with like, hey, dumbass, binaural beats. And I'm like, oh, yeah, kind of knew that. Binaural beats, syncing up the hemispheres of the brain, syncing them up to a certain frequency will allow you to do X, Y, and Z. And so I now know, okay, I can give that a Goog, right? I can look that up, binaural beats, to get into a meditative state or whatever, and that'll probably help the process. And so, but I don't go ahead and do it. I'm just waiting because I still haven't gotten the answer. Like, should I do it or should I not? All of a sudden, somebody who's a fan of the show reaches out. Was it Pastor Ben? It might have been Pastor Ben. It was.
Pastor Ben.
Pastor Ben's the man. Shout out Pastor Ben. And he goes on this whole email about, and I never read the emails when they come in. I try to save them because we do NDS Chronicles. We want to read the testimonies on the show. I don't want to spoil them for myself. But something told me to read this. Long story short, he's talking about how he did this form of meditation, discovered binaural beats, and started to be able to use it to remote view. Now, what ends up happening, though, is it leads to poltergeist phenomenon, and it leads to abduction experiences, right? So he starts engaging in this binaural beat, syncing of the hemispheres, trying to astral project. Next thing you know, he says it's like a beacon, and everything starts coming towards him. So now he's having sleep paralysis. He's getting abducted by aliens in the middle of the night. And he's experiencing poltergeist activity around his house, right? And so it's not, the phenomenon is not strictly psychological because it can interact with the physical around you, it seems, i.e. the poltergeist activity, lights and objects moving, falling off shelves, shit like that. But then he says something very fascinating. So he goes down this path long enough that he has determined what hertz to play these binaural beats at to get the best effect. Whatever's going to work the best. He tunes it. He doesn't, whatever it is, he doesn't even want to tell us what it is because he just doesn't want us to give that information out and have somebody else have these experiences. But he does let something slip, and I guess I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. He let the cat out of the bag, and we read it on the show. But he says that Dr. Stephen Greer, he makes this CE5 app, right, for these people to telepathically call in these UFOs to have this experience. And it does seem to be reliable. It seems that you can gather an audience around, and he goes, I'm going to bring these things in here now with my brain, and all of a sudden these orbs show up in the sky, and so people are having a tremendous amount of success with this. But he finds out that what is part of that app right there is binaural beats. Not only is it binaural beats, but they're tuned to the same hertz, the same frequency that he found was the most effective that led to all of those events.
These guided meditations are what the binaural beats are, the high frequency tones there. So yeah, it's crazy shit, man.
It's all connected.
There's like some actual historical record of this kind of phenomenon too. I read a book with Juan Ayala when we were doing a cult book club on a book called the Cartesian Voyage, or the Voyage of Cartesius, and it's written like half satirical, but it also has some pretty like very forward thinking stuff because it was written in, I think, in like the late 1680s or 1690s. And it talks about how Rene Descartes, he would astral project in order to go out into the universe and have these sort of ascended masters show him how the universe was created with vibrations and by all these very high level abstract concepts. And they did it by flying him around the universe and like, let's watch a planet being born. Let's watch a planet collapse. And he could actually see all this happen through all these vortices. Well, he said that the more he did this and the more he was out with his ascended masters learning about the universe, his body's at home, and he had to summon a homunculus that would kind of keep watch over his body, because as the body was out like that, he severs this little cord, this little silver cord. You should probably hear about in like Rosicrucian and some sort of like mystical Christianity, that when you go to sleep or when you're
Thomas,
having
what
an
was his
out-of-body
nickname
experience,
for that? What was his nickname for that little creature that he had?
The homunculus?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his nickname.
Yes, you do. The little black man, he called it the little N-word, I thought he said.
Oh no, he
It was
did.
a
No,
little-
he did. He did call it the little. Yeah, he called it the. Well, it was the Negro, not the
Yeah, the
one that
The
you
little
like to say
Negro.
But he called. Yeah, he had this little Negro homunculus that would watch over his body to protect it, because he said that basically, like, it turns into a beacon, like you were just saying, David, that once you sever that cord, you're kind of leaving your car running with the, the engine running, the door open,
The key
in the middle of, like Brooklyn or wherever, the hell, Miami or something. Like,
Yeah,
you're
it's the same
actually
thing, right?
enticing someone to come and take it. So in that exact same way, that if you don't know what you're doing, that was kind of like one of the morals of this story, like the whole long ass book, was
Well,
that
what
if
was
you're
she
going
wearing?
out and astral projecting and you don't have something watching over your body while you're gone, then anything can come in and jump into that. Which it also is identical to like the Moonchild ritual, or like the weird stuff that Parsons or even Epstein was doing out in the desert, where you find some sort of an attractive shell and you're just summoning demons. Like, hey, look at this sweet vehicle I got. Who wants to jump into this vehicle? That you're kind of opening yourself up to that same thing with astral projection.
That's incredible. Like, that is so in alignment with what Pastor Ben. I hope it was Pastor Ben.
And again, this is a book from the 1690s that's saying this. This is not like from the 1960s.
Yeah, there's
Well, and then there was also a downside to this too, Thomas. If you want to get into it, that entity that he created stopped wanting to leave. He was like, "No, I like this car.
Yeah,
I
the little
want to stick around
homunculus.
here."
The homunculus would kind of like sit in the car and like keep it warm and make sure no.
Dude, he got to fuck his wife. He got to drink beer. He got to like.
And the guy's like, "No, I don't want to leave." Yeah.
Well, that's the idea, right? Is that all of these spirits, these are dead abominations. In other words, these aren't part of God's original plan. These are Nephilim, and they come in so many variety, right? I think it's like the Book of Jubilee or the Book of Giants describes the Nephilim as not being alike consistently. So there was probably like offshoots where you did have pale skin, red haired giants, but you also had all kinds of other shit that give rise to the Egyptian pantheon, right? All of these sort of mashed up animal people, animal human hybrids and shit like that. And when they die, their spirits don't ascend. Their spirits are basically trapped in another realm, and it sucks ass for them. It's not, they want to engage in the physical again. They want to be able to experience drink and all of these various physical satisfactions. And the only way that they can do that is interfacing with your physical body and then using your so that is so consistent with virtually everything, because if you go to the Bible and you go to demonic possession, when people are demonically possessed, they're engaging in rampant drug use and crazy sexual escapades and all this basically debaucherous behavior, right? Sins of the flesh. These things are engaging in whatever the flesh desires.
Bucket list shit, right?
Bucket list shit. Yeah, they got a small amount of time to be able to possess you until somebody figures out that they don't really have the rights over you and that they can be cast out in the name of Jesus Christ. And so in the meantime, it's time to pedal to the metal, right? We're going to slam some H, we're going to punch some babies, and we're going to some hookers. And that's the name of the game for as long as they can keep it up. So when you see people in that kind of behavior, not only is it sin, not only is it corrosive, but there are spirits that are engaging and they're siphoning off it. In fact, I remember talking to somebody, I forgot who it was, but they wrote into the Ravens Watch back when I was doing the Ravens Watch, and they explained to me their parasitic relationship with an entity. The entity was ancient. I think it might have been feminine of some sort, but it cut a deal with them. I forget how he even found this thing, but the deal was, allow me to inhabit you. It's a parasitic relationship. In fact, it even says it's my nature. It's basically how I survive. I need a host. I will give you, whatever it is that you ask for. So what he asked for was tremendous success with women. That was his shit. He was very short-sighted. He's just like, I want to bag bitches. And it was like, gotcha, baby. And then I think it also said, like, and if you want to know some shit, like, ask me some shit. I'll tell you some things. And what it got was access to his emotional loosh. And so he starts being pushed towards like all these sexual encounters. He's just bagging bitches left and right, but he's also got like a drug and alcohol substance abuse thing. And he's kind of dulled. Right. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of emotional range. He said that was eventually what led to him asking it to leave, which it abided and or it obliged him. And it was actually a sad departure, but it did dull his emotional. So he was having with women, but he was feeling no connection. He was doing all these drugs, but he just felt empty and there was nothing going on. And the reason being is because that thing was getting all that gratification. That's what it wanted. It wanted to engage in the physical in his life, in his body. And he got some answers, some interesting things about the nature of what karma is, and the nature of what it was. It also talked about Jesus Christ, and it was actually very sad and had like a reverence for Christ and what happened on the cross and everything. And it was very unique. It didn't just sound like this evil entity. It just sounded like a thing that had a pretty fucked up nature, and that when they did go their separate ways, it was a sad departure. But that you see that in so many instances.
He
that,
felt like it would like die.
Yeah,
Like-
that's what it did. It felt like it would die. Like it had to. It was basically like, I've got to go find another host because without it, I will cease to exist.
This is sort of the original story of The Little Mermaid, too. Not the Disney version, but the Hans Christian Andersen version. That the real story of Little Mermaid wasn't that she wanted to go and meet some human prince and fall in love and figure out what it was on land. It was that mermaids, as these non-human creatures, knew that when they died, their soul did not live on. They didn't get to go to any sort of afterlife. There was no reincarnation. They just literally turned back into sand and then had to go through this whole process again. But if they were able to either find true love through humanity, then they could actually gain a soul that could go on to this afterlife. But in the original story, the guy does not fall for Ariel, or whatever the original mermaid's name was. He does not fall for her. So then the plan becomes, kill this guy. If you can kill him and get rid of the connection between his soul and his body, then you can then put, you know, your version into his body, and then you can kind of sneak through the gate and get into the same pattern of like humanity, which is, it's wild, but this is based on many older stories. Like Hans Christian Andersen didn't make all that up. These are actual folklores from all across the world.
Dude, that is the birthright, right? So we through the new covenant, we get redemption, and we get to, you know, reign with Christ eternally, right? And we get access to heaven, all these different things. They don't get access to that shit, and that's
It's like
why
having like enough Delta Sky Miles. You get to go into like the little lounge and get.
Well, that's
like,
what it is, and they're
bread
trying to
and beer.
sneak on. They're trying to sneak on, and they this is why you still see the same thing. It's about genetics. There's like something in our genetic code that allows us. It's almost like sometimes I like to imagine it as like you know, if you got the right genetic code, you can pass through the gates type of deal. And you can see them trying to do this hybridization program. They're trying to bridge the gap between us and them. I think that's exactly what's going on with the UFO phenomenon. I think that's what's going on with the black-eyed children, right? The reason that they're so consumed with taking our seed and, you know, our reproductive tissue, all this different shit, and then creating these like strange autistic telepaths that are just uncanny, they're not quite right, is because they're trying to figure out how they can inherit what is our inheritance. They want to figure out how to get the right to our inheritance, in other words. And you can see that it's the same thing when the Watchers take human wives. It's not just because they're like, yeah, titties. They're also like, they're pissed off at us because we get Earth. You know, it seems like they might have been there to some degree before us. And then when God creates human beings, they're like, dude, what do you mean they're going to inherit the Earth, right? So immediately they decide to start working on blending the bloodlines, but none of them are viable. They're like, what do you call them? Not that they're non-viable, like a liger where it doesn't have offspring, but it doesn't matter. It's like once they die, their spirits are here. They haven't successfully crossed that genetic boundary where they're making something that can actually, and they're trying to do it by God's laws. The only way that you can get what we have is if you do it by the rules and the laws that God put in place. So you have to go by that system, right? And that system, I think it dictates something genetic, specifically something genetic. And so it's been this really long game where they're trying, and they're using technology, they're using artificial intelligence, they're using, you know, hybridization programs, and they're trying their ass off to inherit what we get.
Yeah, there's something to that, dude. And some of the things too, like Thomas, the story you're telling about the Little Mermaid. I mean, mermaids are also connected to the Fae, and a lot of those old folklore and things like that. I mean, one of the ones that I love reading about is the changelings. So there was all these like women that would get pregnant, and their child would either go missing for a moment, or they would turn around and like their child would come back, kind of, but different, right? So it was almost like maybe you give your kid a woke poke or something, and then he was like just changed and different. Like maybe this was explaining autism back in the day. I don't know.
Right,
but they would say that it was these fairy entities would come and kind of steal the soul of your child and stuff one of theirs in.
Yeah.
And so they would try to stuff their soul into your. So it was kind of, they were cutting that silver cord and taking over the body.
There was another version of this that I've heard described, that the changelings were like the fae folk, but it was their retirement plan. Their version of sticking Nana in a home was to take Nana and swap them out with a baby, and they trick a human family to take care of Nana until she died, because I guess old fae folk look a lot like human babies. And you're right, Nate, the modern day explanation for why did so many people claim to see changelings 100 or 200 years ago, and a lot of it was because of autism, and people would just like, they couldn't acknowledge that there might be something different about, you know, that like this person in their family, that their offspring, and the one of the like mechanisms was to be like, well, that's not my kid, that was swapped out, this is a different thing.
Yeah.
And the wildest part is that the way that you would test to see if it was a changeling or not is they would literally put a baby in the oven or put a baby in the fire. And if the baby cried, then that means that the fae folk ran up and swapped out Nana for your baby again. And now you actually got your baby back. But the second you take them back out of the fire, if you turn your back for even a second, then they can just hop back in. So they actually had people part of the family that would keep their eyes on the kids at all times to make sure that they didn't swap back into this changeling. And this also was Martin Luther. If you read like his diaries, where he would just gather a bunch of people and just rant about religious stuff, he went off on changelings constantly. Like, this isn't relegated to just grim fairy tales. This is part of, you know, like the origins of like Lutheranism.
Well, now I've gotten to the point where I suspect so much of what we dismiss as just like crazy people shit was actually real. And if you look at that through that lens, it's like, yeah, dude, if you felt like something was swapping your baby out, like, how desperate would you get? You'd be like, Grandma, if you take your eyes off of this baby, I'm going to punch you in the face. Do not take your eyes off this baby because it's going to get swapped out. There was a movie that came out in 2024 called The Watchers. It's at the heart of the mystery of folklore dealing with fairies, best known as changelings, malign shapeshifters studying their captive human quarry. So I forget exactly how the movie goes, but it's basically like these people end up in this kind of cabin in the woods and they're trapped there. They wake up there mysteriously, and one of the walls is like a giant viewing screen. It's a you know, a bulletproof glass, and they're in the forest. And it's interesting that they call it The Watchers because it's about the Fae. And one of the things that happens is like everybody has to catch this one bitch up to speed. They're like, oh yeah, you woke up here. We woke up here too. We don't know how we got here. All we know is that they're watching. And we figured out what we're allowed to do. We're allowed to go out during the day. We have to make it back here by night. If we don't make it back here by night, they do some horrible shit to us, whatever. And then we can actually have some sort of interaction with them to some degree where like we can't see them, but you can tell they're like in the tree line when you're inside the cabin and you're looking out the glass. Long story short, something ends up happening where like one of their hands gets pressed up against the glass and they've got 6 fingers, right? Which is the Nephilim were notorious for having 6 fingers. The Fae lore is the same exact lore as the Fallen. It is the Fallen. It's just different cultures calling it different things, in my opinion. And it all lines up in this idea of like changelings or even like shape-shifting, right? It's like these angels, these different classes of angels, from what we've learned, it seemed that they had the capability of shape-shifting, right? So everything that happens at the most extreme level of supernatural shit, shape-shifting and inhabiting different bodies and all this different crap, it all can be found some way, shape, or form, if you're using like extra canonical text or otherwise, in the Fallen and in their offspring. It's like it really does. You know, Gary Wayne, I think, is great. He's one of the guys that really kind of made me see how that lens applies to everything. It doesn't dismiss everything, right? So we look at things through the biblical lens, but that's not to say that we don't think the Vedics were correct in a bunch of shit that they saw, or that the Greeks weren't correct in a bunch of shit they saw, or the Celtics or anything like that. Like, I think they all saw something very real. I think it all does apply to the Genesis 6 narrative and the falling of the Watchers and all this shit. But I just think that the key difference is that everybody else was getting their story from the Fallen, whereas Christianity's not getting their story from the Fallen. It's getting the story from God, and God's being like, yeah, they suck, dude. They like went around, positioned themselves as your gods. They're really kind of assholes. You know, they want worship and veneration. It's like a drug to them. And once they get an entire nation's worship and veneration, it doesn't stop there. You don't just stop doing heroin once you get, a lot of heroin. You're like, I need more heroin, right? And so what do? You go, I've got all the heroin I need over here, but that nation has a lot of heroin. What if I start whispering into the ears of these to go and invade and kill those people so I can take over that nation too and do their heroin? So it's like, I think all of it makes a ton of sense. It's just whether or not you got your story from them or if you got it from God. But it's all connected.
A slight tangent on this one too. Just I'm on that topic of being convinced by these other entities in order to go to war for their reasons, not for your reasons. This is from, I think, like the late 90s, early 2000s. Michael Sarion had this whole Origins and Oracles series, but in this series, blew my mind. I can't forget this, that he said that there are this like different race of fallen entities of some kind. I'll use the words that he probably didn't use, but these like fallen entities, and that they're convincing humans to go to war with each other. And if you look at modern military insignia, it's lots of stars and stripes and things. But like the best thing that you could do on a war campaign would be take out a whole bunch of generals, right? The more stars that get sacrificed on the field, and that there's this version of sympathetic magic where in order to honor the star gods, like the pagan gods that are living in the stars, as opposed to like a god or a sun god, that you actually have to sacrifice stars down here on Earth. So by taking out a 1-star or a 4-star general, that is the highest, sacrifice that you can make in attribution to these kind of fallen star gods. And that all wars are really kind of like that. They're not just fighting for us to praise them. They just like want you to die, and they want important versions of you to die because that's what really gives them their penance. So I always thought that was a wild way of looking at it. Like, yeah, why do we use this star symbolism as the greatest sacrifice that could be made?
And I think that's that also applies to all of the ritual sacrifice of our own stars in Hollywood and in the music industry, right? It's like somebody dies, some big famous star dies, and then all of a sudden there's all this talk about like, well, did you see the series of events leading up to it? Wasn't it strange? The cryptic symbols, the this, the that, and all the whispers of like, this wasn't a natural death. This was a sacrifice, right? A sacrifice of a star. I think you're right. Sympathetic magic is a great way to look at that. And I think that applies to what we see in the music industry and shit like that.
And to tie this back into Bigfoot too, because I don't really feel like we've even strayed that far, is that when we're talking about these ideal vessels that could attract some other entity or spirit or fallen or whatever, they kind of see human as like easy pickings. Maybe Bigfoot is even better. Maybe Bigfoot is the Lamborghini version of humans. Like maybe they're so connected to Christ or Christ consciousness or whatever it is, and they have since realized it, and that's why they are so scarce and why they only speak telepathically and have all these other sort of like defense mechanisms in place, is because they've got something that's older and like more sacred to protect. And I guess we're kind of like the new generation, and there's so many of us that it's like shooting fish in a barrel for some of these entities.
That could also be why it evolves the way that it does, the phenomenon, right? Because if you look at the Patterson gimbal footage, is that what it's called?
Gimlin, yeah, Patterson Gimlin
footage. That's just this lumbering Bigfoot walking through the forest. But now what you
female
get
Bigfoot with big old
tats. She's got a set of cans on her, a set of heavies, and she's swaying through the forest, swinging those heavies, looking for some other Bigfoot to come and give him a squeeze. And now it's so
Would you
different.
drink Bigfoot milk?
Yeah,
I'd give it a sip.
Dude, I had my friend was making like a sweetener for his coffee with his wife's breast milk. He made cheese. He made like fresh mozzarella with it. It got weird, dude. It got really weird.
That's not good.
I knew a guy in the military that made his own blood sausage from his own blood.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, now
that's not easy. I mean, you actually have to have acid as it's pouring, so it coagulates properly. You have to constantly stir it.
He went to Germany and got hooked on the stuff, and he couldn't find it in the States, so he just made it.
What do you do?
Dude, blood sausage is delicious, dude.
I've had blood sausage. It's pretty good. First, it's milk, breast milk. Then it's blood sausage. He's a box saga bro, isn't he now? That's what's going on. You're just like, what other fluids
just
taste
skip
good?
all those. Just get right to the shield, bro.
Just get back
to
the
shield.
Drink
Dude, there's wild, disgusting yeast that grow all over our bodies, and there's lesbians. I believe this was in what horrible state was
lesbians.
That? Yeah, so there's lesbians that take their and brew beer, and you can actually get cheese and beer brewed by them. They're lesbian, feminine. What is that horrible state? What's the one where Bernie
Portland,
Sanders is
Oregon.
from?
Yep.
You'd think so.
Vermont.
Vermont, yes. These are some Vermont, crunchy.
Oh, dude, I
Lesbos.
trust Vermont's cheese too.
Yeah.
Never again, motherfucker. Never again.
It
Oh my
might be
God.
delicious, dude. It might be delicious. But
There's a
who
lot of
knows?
things that the Box Saga Bros might be like, it's got a taste. It's nutty. It's pleasant. It's got a pleasant aftertaste. But I'm not gonna find
They're all
out.
drinking pineapple juice just to be courteous to each
That's
other.
it. Yeah, it's
So
better when it's
I wanted
sweet.
to-
Dude, I did have a black girl in high school that would bring me pineapple juice every day.
Oh, what
And there was a
sweetheart.
reason. Yeah, so she
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 just
was
wanted
sweetie.
make
She
sure
just
I
you
didn't
get
know
vitamin
what
C.
she was
fattening you
doing,
up?
dude. She was getting me she was what's the word? Me, dude. She was and then she went Hoover on me after that.
You were groomed. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I was
I mean,
groomed. She was
that
a
sounds
senior,
like a
dude. I was
lovely
a
lady.
freshman. It really was a situation.
Did
What
she
a
get
nice
the
woman.
knowledge? Did you give her the knowledge? She was like,
I
I
gave
know
her
a
the
lot
knowledge,
about
or
Bigfoot
she gave
now.
me the knowledge. Yeah.
She gave
Well,
you
she
head,
has
you
the
gave her
knowledge, too.
knowledge.
Now she's-
Very nice.
Now she's schizophrenic.
She now knows all the chick tracks by heart. She has no idea how.
Well, listen, Top, I know you were going somewhere, but let me finish this line of thought. So we're talking
No,
about
fuck
how
you.
whether or not I hate you, whether or not these Bigfoot are our better vessel in some way, shape, or form. That might be. You never know what kind of deals, right? If Eisenhower cut a deal supposedly with aliens, isn't that the rumor that
My poor wife, all I do is drink Rockstar. I don't know what anyways.
We're talking Majestic 12 is what you're referencing. I think.
Yeah. So if you have that sort of a situation going on where we're cutting deals one way or another, or we're in some sort of interaction with them, could it also be that there's a coalition of Bigfoot? I know that sounds retarded, but we're talking about whether or not he's even a physical being, so I think it's okay to go here. So let's say they also were offered a deal. Could that be what we get technology, we back engineer it or whatever, and all of a sudden we have a giant advancement in our technological, achievements. Bigfoot, if they are appealing to Bigfoot, all of a sudden, what's he get? He gets attack dogs, man attack dogs. He gets to have he's associated in some way, shape, or form suddenly with UFO abductions or UFO sightings, orbs, portals, all these different things when he used to just be a lumbering, big-breasted, ape walking through the woods. Now it seems that it's different. So if they can augment us, why stop at us? Bigfoot definitely seems sentient, given all the telepathic communication. There's
Do
real.
you think the Council of Bigfoot drink water like the president of Haiti, just like the whole thing, or do you think he has a little bit more couth than this?
I think they're more couthful. I think they're smoother than that. I don't know what the hell. That was Haiti.
They use
I don't even
Yeti
know
mud.
why they have a place there on the council. That doesn't make
He was
any sense.
thirsty.
He was thirsty. Well, they don't have water in Haiti. They only have baby blood. And Hillary Clinton came and took all that, so I don't know what the hell
They
they're
have
drinking
dirt
nowadays.
cakes and delicious dirt cakes.
You
Look
guys
that
know
up.
about the dirt cakes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy story.
With
I
the
don't wanna talk about it.
mosquitoes, the mosquito patties.
No, like some dude sells these women dirt. Yeah, these people, they sell them
Actual dirt
on
cakes.
credit, and then they make dirt cakes that they
Yep.
sell, but they can't even turn a profit.
Dude, there's another crazy I mean, this is definitely a tangent a little bit, but like the guys that go out and install electrical grids in a lot of these countries, like in Africa and other places, and they end up dismantling the transformers because the transformers have this highly toxic oil in them that helps dissipate the heat. But they take the oil and they use it to cook food and to like sell to each other or to sell like the big bags. And it's clearly not cooking oil. It is like one of the most toxic substances on the planet. It's made to keep transformers cool. But all of these like humanitarian initiatives where they're like, we're going to bring electricity to this village, and they come back like a month later and it's all gone because they're eating the oil, which is just wild.
That's incredible. That
They're
reminds
eating
me
the
of that
dogs.
Sam
They're eating
Kinison
the
bit.
cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're eating the
It reminds me of
transformers.
the Sam Kinison bit where he's talking about the Save the Children thing, and it's like for 25 cents a month you can feed this little black boy with a distended belly and sticks for arms and legs. And he goes, why are they, there's no food in the desert. Why don't you just move out of the desert? There's no food in the desert. Instead of just settling. I never understood that. I was having a conversation with my wife and I'm like, people have migrated on foot for a long time. There you go. They're eating
They're
the
eating
dogs.
the
they're eating
dogs, eating the cats.
But people have migrated on foot. If you believe in the whole Bering Strait kind of a situation where there was a gigantic landmass, connecting continents, and this idea that not only did animals migrate over it, but so did people in some way, shape, or
And
form.
where the epicantic fold came from with the Asians, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so every other ethnicity on Earth seems to have traversed miles and miles and miles on foot. But for whatever reason, whatever happened in Africa, they were just like, this desert where nothing grows, there's no food, there's no water. This is where we will stake our claim. This is where we raise our pot-bellied children who will die.
The smart ones left. Is that what you said?
What's that?
What?
What? How resilient are they? If all the smart ones left, and then they just sat there, why are they still alive? It's insane. I don't understand that at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. I really don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, then we wouldn't have any commercials.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We wouldn't have anything to donate to. I don't know. I mean, I think it applies. We're talking about shadow people and they look like it. Well, look, when it comes to the Bigfoot thing, I know we're approaching the hour-and-a-half mark. Is there anywhere else that you wanted to go before we bring this in?
I wanted to ask a question.
So many places, dude.
So
we covered this much.
I just wanted, because it's something that I heard of for a while, and then it just never gets brought up anymore. But a metal door, a metal screeching door, like as if it's like a portal opening. I hear this associated with like right before they see a dog man or some kind of, usually out in the woods or in the wilderness, something like that. Is this something that you guys have come across or heard? Because we know the smell, but now the sounds.
I haven't heard about a metal door.
Well, it's been described as a metal door because it sounds like, imagine having a really big heavy metal door, opening it, and it's grinding against the concrete beneath it. Yeah. Really what that sounds like to me is a resonance, like a really intense vibration that takes place moments before something appears. And Tony Merkel on his show has begun to associate that noise because it pops up in so many people's stories about cryptid encounters and such, that he's associating it with an opening of a portal or a door. And there was a time where that kind of thing was becoming very popular. I don't know if these things are connected or not, but it was the giant mysterious sounds that were like echoing through the sky, and they seemed to have no place of origin, but they were unbelievably loud. I tend to look at those as when they're drilling these DUMBs, these deep underground military bases. The public doesn't need to know what the fuck's going on there. And I imagine that's very, very loud. And you want to talk about a really intense vibration when this gigantic drill is cutting through all this hard rock. That's probably what they're hearing. But I don't think that applies to what people are encountering in these cryptid encounters where...
Well, there is a version of Bigfoot out of Virginia called the wood booger, which is one of the funnest names to say out of all of them. And the wood booger is associated with but it's more of like a high pitch howling noise, like a woo, very high. But I mean, since we don't have the nomenclature to discuss like the specific sounds of Bigfoot entering and exiting our reality, that this could be the same thing as the giant metal door screeching would be the same as like the wood booger call, right? Because there's not a lot of frame of reference between these.
Right. What I'm wondering is why. So, okay. We were talking before about whether or not it's spiritual or physical, but there seems to be quite a many instances of them dicking people down. And I don't think you could do that if you're strictly spiritual. And I don't know if that means they don't have the ability to like phase in and out. I don't know if you've heard the theory that's going on right now with infrasound, which is this low vibrational frequency that you can actually see on display in like crocodiles and big cats, for example. So big cats will emit such a low growl that people that encounter it say that it resonates to their core. It'll almost make you shit your pants. It freezes you up. In fact, it's like, people think that there's fight or flight, but there's also freeze. And this noise will actually cause that. And then if you take that in conjunction with the idea of like, you ever have a shitty old Honda Civic and you've got a really crazy bass system in it. And when the bass goes off, everything starts vibrating and it makes the doors on the Honda Civic look like they're waving around, like they're made of rubber or some shit like that. So if these Bigfoot were able to manipulate something like that, cause that kind of an effect, it could cause that terror that everybody describes when they see them. It could cause that freezing that everybody describes when they see them, and it also could create that blurry effect that takes place where like you try to take a picture of them and they just look wavy and blurry, and it's because they are the Honda Civics of the the cryptozoology world. They're emitting this low frequency vibration, and to the human eye, it may look like one thing, but the shutter speed on a camera, it's a totally different thing, and you just can't pin them down. They look like they're blending into the trees and shit.
Well, there's sympathetic syncopation, I think it's called, or sympathetic vibrations. Have you ever seen the videos where they take a bunch of metronomes and they've all got like 60 metronomes going at different rhythms and different BPMs, and on a certain amount of time, as long as they're not in some kind of a vacuum, they'll all eventually sync up with each other, and they're all tapping the exact same way. It's one of the most crazy things to actually see, and you can show it. And really what's happening is just it's vibrating the table that they're all sitting on, and that table becomes sort of like this baseline frequency, which they all slowly become tuned to. So I think that there might also be a version of that. I'm not saying like the cat comes out or like a lion growls at you, you turn into a lion, but that if you had enough of them and they were all making that same noise, like you would almost become attuned to that noise and be able to unlock some other level of consciousness. I don't mean that like you see God or anything, but you might like unlock some kind of synesthesia, or you might like realize something that you didn't realize before just through that same exact type of sympathetic vibration.
Well, so Andrija Puharic was working on one of his many things, ELF waves, extremely low frequency waves. And they said that this enhanced, I don't know.
In my kitchen, and they're very loud.
Yes.
I have to keep muting
Give
my
me a
thing.
second.
That's where your
I'll
mom
be out
is.
in 1 second, buddy. All right. He's leaving.
Both of our wives just got back from the gym. They're now in my
We're about to get into Bigfoot here, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
that's it. We're trying to talk about Bigfoot. I want to yell at them. Unbelievable. Have some respect for our Bigfoot conversation.
The extremely low frequency waves enhance cognitive functions, induce altered states of consciousness, and emotional states. They actually suspended the use of this stuff because it was they said it was linked to phenomena that was causing climactic disturbance, so weather pattern shifts and unnatural events. It's
probably
like
the basis for HARP.
When you get into ELF waves and these ultra low frequencies, you also have to be fairly powerful, right? And because in order to even form a really long, low frequency wave, you have to have enough power behind it that can keep it going. And like, if you ever heard the brown note, this is like the note that it makes your body, resonate, and you just evacuate your bowels. You just shit yourself from hearing the brown note. And cool. It's real, but it's not a practical thing because there's no way to control it. There's no way to make you hear it and me not hear it. So that's one of the many reasons why these like ELF waves are not as popular, is because they can't figure out how to prevent it from splashing back onto them.
Yeah.
And if we are talking about one of these frequencies from the body, let's say that, like you were just talking about, like, let's say a panther or something can like freak you out, make your body freak out. We've talked about this before in the show that females around a Bigfoot, there is something that happens when he pulls out his erect penis. There is a sound vibration. Women, they just come.
It's like a tuning fork.
This is kind of like the brown. So this is the pink frequency.
Yes.
Whatever this is. And
what's interesting
too, right? Not just the sound, but so there's been reports that just making eye contact with the member will just immediately cause you to pass out and orgasm.
Well, that makes a lot of sense now, because every time I hear about a Bigfoot, they're two-pronged. So it's essentially a giant tuning fork, and they whack it and it vibrates, and it. You know what I'm thinking though? Check this out. So people have that unbelievable sense of fear, and it causes them to freeze up, and they're filled with a sense of dread, right? Really often in these instances. And what I'm wondering is, like, is that a form of how binaural beats can sync up the hemispheres of the brain and lock you into a certain frequency that allows you to then astral project or what the hell ever? Is this thing emitting, it's laying the groundwork, not only to disarm you and immobilize you, but also to sync you up to it immediately so that it can now communicate with you telepathically, right? So it's like, it does this thing, you shit your pants, you see the big pink double-pronged tuning fork, but also it puts you on the same line of frequency that it's on, so now it can communicate with you, otherwise it wouldn't be able to. I don't know, I mean, there's no way to prove that shit, but I do think that the more we start to delve into this research, the more I realize that frequency is at the heart of so much. It's at the heart of everything when it comes to the supernatural. And I think that these things exist in a way on a different wavelength from us, and we can cross over onto it, or we can be made to cross over onto it. We could be forced, we could be put onto that wavelength through a manipulation of frequency. But in some ways Angels in the Airwaves. Blink 182 turns into Angels in the Airwaves. Tom DeLonge creates To the Stars Academy. He seems to be associated somehow with our big fake and gay UFO disclosure, but Angels in the Airwaves is the name of his new band. It sucks, but what an interesting name. Angels in the Airwaves. What are airwaves? They're frequencies, they're waves, they're vibrations, right? Angels are there. I think that they exist in some way there primarily, and that they're not always, maybe they are sometimes crossing into our realm, but sometimes they're just manipulating frequencies so that we can perceive them on their realm for a second or two, or for some, amount of time. But I think that Tom DeLonge, as gay as he is, he knows something.
Yeah, I don't think they're crossing over here. Like you're saying, it's like they're altering our perception and allowing us to see them. Yeah. I think that's definitely what's happening.
Yeah. And he's getting ready to do something, very fake and very gay, and they're going to lie to us about the nature of what all this is. But it strikes me that he knows something. That's it seems like a throwaway name, like, oh, we play music over the airwaves, the radio waves, right? And we're I don't know, angels are cool, but it's like,
luckily he sucks and no one's actually going to listen to it, so it shouldn't have too much of an effect.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be him and Stephen Greer, who basically looks like if you shave Donkey Kong down.
Dude, we just had Chris Matthew on, and he says that he's a confirmed IDF agent. Like there's he has a connection with the IDF. Like that's a Mossad, rather. Like there's some sort of Mossad connection there.
He's horrifying.
Stephen Greer's a weird guy, dude.
He's a really weird looking dude. Him, David Wilcock, some of these guys that are running around in that space.
Weirdo.
Yeah, Luis Elizondo, right? Is that his name? I don't know how these guys have. What's that?
I think I met him, Luis Elizondo. I got to see who I met. I met some people at the UFO days. Actually, they came here to Oregon.
That's Elizondo, right? Yeah, weird looking guy.
Lou Elizondo. Yeah, but who spells Lou like that? That's weird.
Yeah, like asshole.
In this post, they said this is the alien that he saw, which looks like an aborted fetus. I don't know.
You know what that looks like? So there were babies that were being born in the Middle East.
The changeling that stayed in the oven too long?
That was that one, yeah. No, but there was a phenomenon that was taking place in the Middle East predominantly. I don't know what chemical agent they were exposed to, but some babies were coming out looking like lizards, honestly. They looked like reptilians. And there was a conventional explanation as to why it was happening. These babies would never make it to any sort of term at all. They would end up
white
dying.
Phosphorus?
I might have been. I don't know what the hell it was, but they were really horrifying looking. They looked like newborn reptilians, but they were dead already, stillborn. And so that looks a lot like that to me. I don't know. They always show us some really unremarkable shit. They're like, look at this alien that almost is certainly a sandcastle. It's made of sand. Is it cake? Remember that alien that they wheeled out like 2 years ago? It looked like cake. I'm like, why are you doing this to us? I know you have cool shit. I saw a little black boy that was naked in the woods. You don't have anything cooler than that? That's strange to me. But I have this real quick. I want to pull it up. I don't know if we can say anything interesting on it, but this came from Chupacabra 2, which is a really cool name. He follows me. I should follow him. Let's follow him back. Cool guy. He says, the alien symbols reported by UFO experiencers have long been compared to the Enochian language. Why did UFO whistleblower Matthew Brown's first post include notes deciphering Enochian? So I'm going to let this play for a little bit here.
Gauntlet, yeah. And it had like a crystal type of display screen. Above that display screen were these hieroglyphic symbols that I started to see appear.
What?
Yeah. Not only did I see the symbols, but they were like changing to different symbols. So there was a movement to them as well. So they weren't just like static.
And now they're projecting these hieroglyphics. It was sentences and paragraphs, and it would be like, imagine if I had like subtitles floating in front of me. They were like dark red symbols. It was like, I describe it as a mix of Egyptian and Japanese, and they were just flipping from the bottom up really, really fast. Just flip, 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 paragraph, sentence, and it's hovering right in front of my wall, like above one of the their heads. And one thing that I think is worth noting is that there was only one English symbol that was shown about 3 to 4 times. Everything else was these hieroglyphs.
And what was it?
DNA in capital letters.
There was no wings, there was no motors, there was no propellers, there was no identification whatsoever that were identified as a aircraft that I would know. There was a bumper on the bottom part of it. On that bumper, there was what I call, it looked to me like the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. To this day, I've never seen anything like it. I've studied the ancient Incas, I've studied the ancient Aztec Indians, I've studied the Egyptians. I've looked at pictures of Russian writing, I've looked at pictures of Polish writing, I've looked at pictures of Hebrew writing. Nothing. Nothing that resembles it.
The UFO had crashed into this field.
Oh, I gotta pause it. I can't look at this guy anymore. He's really off-putting. But it does seem like whatever's going on is, recently we had that UAP egg retrieval situation that happened, and then there was another, and that was with that guy, that bald-headed dude who said that he's the helicopter pilot who's retrieving this egg from this mountainscape, and he says that he's suddenly possessed by the spirit of God, but that it's feminine and that guy's obviously been possessed by some sort of entity that's, I think, in my opinion, masquerading as God. But around the same time, 4chan, take whatever you say there with a grain of salt, but there's a guy who's claiming to be a military whistleblower. He was on an excursion of some sort to retrieve a very similar egg, and that's the reason that he was blowing the whistle on 4chan, because he saw this, and he's like, I too retrieved an egg. And he came with some pictures, and on that egg, and those pictures, for a second, they looked AI to me. It was a picture of a cave in sort of night vision, and that you could see an egg, but it was overexposed. It was very bright. People started going through all the pictures, and they're like, no, there's contingency here. Each photo, you can see it's the same cave. You can see the same stalactites. It's strenuous to have to go through them and compare them to one another, but it is one continuous, cave scene, whatever. So on that egg, there is symbols. If you can turn the exposure down a little bit, you realize that this UAP egg is covered in these, strange symbols. And somebody identified them as hierarchical numerics, I believe is what they called it. And it was basically a language that was used exclusively by the priest class of Egypt and Greece. And that to me looked a lot like what people would call ancient Enochian. And for those who don't know, ancient Enochian is basically the alphabet, the written language of the angels, allegedly. That you'd be hard pressed to say that the Fallen didn't teach that to mankind, because that was kind of the name of the game. Is every time they position themselves as gods, a pantheon among a civilization, they brought to them hidden knowledge of how this realm works. And so that's getting really mixed up in this UAP narrative in a really big way. I don't know which direction they're going to go with it, but it's on the egg. This guy's talking about it. What do you guys think about that? This emergence of ancient Enochian and how that plays into the narrative?
I got to point out the Enochian from John D, who's the one that basically brought it, right? The one that helped transcribe that with Edward Kelly. But that was one of the first deep state intel operations in history, or at least the most long-lived. Out of all the things that John D did, the Enochian language, the angelic language, is the most long-lived out of all that we still hear about today. And it really was a creation of deep state and the original CIA, the original state-sponsored intel.
Very interesting. What do you think? Do you think there's any veracity to it, or is it an entirely fabricated language, or is it based in something?
I think if you give veracity to Enochian, you also have to give veracity to Mormonism and to Joseph Smith, because it's very hard for me to see the difference between what Joseph Smith did with the gold plates and the hat and the Urim and Thummim and what John D was doing with Edward Kelly. They seem like the exact same process, just in two geographic locations and two different timelines.
Honestly, we've had Mormons on the show, and I don't dismiss Mormonism. I think that something happened. I don't know what happened, and I don't know.
We get in a lot of trouble for talking about Mormonism, but we don't dismiss it. We think that something did happen.
That we don't get our own planet anymore. I was really disappointed about that.
Yeah.
Listen,
I'm mad that we can't say that they're black because they're neutral.
Yeah. Is it true though?
Yeah.
Is it true though that something may have approached him, may have shown him these tablets, and this is what he got from it? Possibly. Is what he got from it true? Most likely no.
Well,
but
and if it was true, how much of it was true? How much of it was lies? Right? It's like that's the MO of these entities is they give you a tremendous amount of truth, and then there's an inversion somewhere. So that's interesting. Subliminal messenger just says Ugaritic text. I woke up like sometime last year with just this in my head. Ugaritic text.
What is this?
And then I never looked it up because even if entities are whispering to me, I'm lazy and I can't read. And so even though I woke up
it's
with
actually
the words,
a selling point for being illiterate is that even if the demons are trying to get you to read some sort of incantation, you're just like, I don't know what to do with this.
hell yeah, dude. I woke up and I just kept having this Ugaritic text. It was just in my head over and over again. And I remember saying it even on this show. And then I just made no effort to even look up even what that meant. I just left it alone. So they're talking to the wrong.
Yeah, it's a language of the Nephilim. That's kind of
cool.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Dismissive wanking gesture.
Yeah, be retarded.
That's what I did.
That's what we tell you on this show. Be a dangerous. Don't learn how to read. If you know how to read, learn how to read less. Good.
Reading is gay. Reading is gay. You could actually, I don't know if you still have that shirt for sale, but I have that shirt in my closet. I bought it off toplobster.com. Reading is gay. Look, I know Top has to bring it in for a landing. I could see him in the thing. He's got to go. And I agree because his wife and my wife, they're laughing in the other room. It's very distasteful. I really don't want them having a good time. So I need him to come and get his wife so they stop talking. It's too much. It's too much. So guys, first off, I want to thank you for coming on. This is an awesome conversation. I know we set out to talk Bigfoot, but we talked about everything, and it's all connected. That's always how it goes, right? I hope that, I know you can't, but I'm still going to say it. I hope that you, Nate, can make it to Bohemian Grove. This guy.
I think if he starts walking now, there's like 9 days. I think
right now. Yeah.
I don't think
You're gonna have to Forrest Gump it a little bit.
Yeah, you'd have to get at least a light trot. Like an enthusiastic speed walk would have to happen. But Paranoid American's going to be there. Thomas the Paranoid American's going to be there. You guys are going to see him running the merch booth. Don't steal anything because we'll have to shoot you. And I know
everyone there is going to be packing too.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
not
it's
even
Florida,
joking.
baby. Everybody's packing. But you're going to get to see so much of the cool shit that Thomas brings. So make sure you come and say hi to Thomas and tell him how Bigfoot had sex with you and what that was like, and tell him that it's more than a spiritual entity. It's a physical entity because that two-pronged pink bad boy, it was real. It was as real as it comes. So one more time, guys, let's start with Thomas. Where can everybody find you?
You can go to paranoidamerican.com. That's the best place to find me. Search for Paranoid American on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, all the places. That's my name. That's who I am.
Awesome. And Nate?
And the big push is doesbigfootexist.com. Yeah, right here.
Sorry.
This is our big one, dude. It's going to be awesome. We just need a few more people to sign up. So don't even give us any money unless you want to. Go ahead. But hit that thing there. Subscribe there. We just got to bump up those numbers. It tickles the algorithm, and then we are going to be ready for launch. So we could be ready to launch at any time. So go there now. Sign up. And it's going to be awesome. And go follow us on Reality Czars. It's fun. Join any of our Patreons. We have schizonewsnetwork.com/Patreon or Reality Czars Patreon. Yeah, dude, we have a great time here. And dude, I have a Nephilim Chronicle for you. I have a story that I want to share with you guys about a succubus story. So one of these days here, I'm going to get it to you guys.
You know what we should do? We should do a rare deviation where we have Nathan and he comes on and he just tells us about it. Sometimes we'll do that. Like if
reenactment, maybe.
Yeah, reenactment would be great.
There will be gestures. Yeah,
gestures. If you can get some costumes involved, that would be very cool. Make it a whole to do. That would be great, man. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thomas, looking forward to seeing you in 9 days, brother. It's going to be really intense. I'm going to be stressed.
Looking forward to being co-defendants with all of you guys.
Awesome. Top, bring us out of here, dude.
All right, guys, until next time, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. Goodbye.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade them that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture of what's happening. And they have.